Hello, my name is Janet Behrens. I'm in the Global Education Office, and I want to share a little information with you about Summer Study Away. How do you search for programs? How do you find funding? Might be helpful to get a little comparison between summer and semester. When you do a summer program, there's no credit transfer. And so when there's no credit transfer, there's no financial aid. The courses tend to be shorter, and of course, it's for a summer, but they really span different lengths. You could do a 2-week program, a 4-week program, 6-week program, 8-week program. There's really varying lengths to summer. In GEO, we tend to recommend go for as long as you can. That way you get more cultural immersion, more exposure to language. But if you can only do a short-term program, then absolutely, it's great to get that experience. Summer programs tend to really condense the courses. They're trying to do a lot in a short period of time. What that means is, trying to compact activities and visits to, museums and sites that are culturally significant. It means you don't have a lot of time for kind of free exploration and doing some local and regional travel. Things are just more condensed and your schedule tends to be a little busier, a little more packed. Your peers on summer programs tend to be students from colleges and universities in the US. A lot of universities abroad don't have their own summer session for their students. They tend to offer summer sessions for visiting students. So a lot of summer programs will offer their own financial aid. They tend to not fully fund programs, but they offer anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. It's not enough to actually cover the program costs, but it is something, and that is certainly an option. If you go for a semester, credit transfers, financial aid transfers, you actually get a little more immersion with local peers. You could be alongside local students at a university. You have more free time for independent travel and exploration and some of those real spontaneous events that happen when you're able to really get into a routine in your host city. And of course, the language acquisition benefits are certainly greater when you're away for a longer period of time. So trying to pick a program, you really have to assess what your top goals are. Is it language proficiency? Or do you want to take language and culture classes? Do you want to do research? There's a growing number of research-based programs that offer students a chance to do some, primary data collection and ethnographic research. Do you want to go on a program that has a lot of activities planned for students, where you get to see a lot of museums and, historically significant sites? You'll want to think about your living arrangements. Do you want to be in a homestay? Do you want to be in a dorm? Or do you want to be in an apartment with other program students? You'll also want to consider your health needs. This is a really important point. GEO likes to advise students to think early about, do you have a medication that you take? Do you have a special diet? Do you have an allergy? Not everything is available or accommodated in a foreign environment. A lot of things are, but it's good to plan. That way you can have a great experience and you can take full advantage of everything the program has to offer. You'll also want to think about spending money. What's the cost of the program? What's the cost of living in your host city? Is it expensive, or does your dollar go really far? Now on our website, on the GEO website, we have a Summer Study Away page that lists, programs that might be of interest to you. You could also look at the semester evaluations. A lot of the programs that we recommend for summer, we actually use for semester. And you can go to the evaluations page and see what students have to say about, the program in the host country you might want to be going. And then also studyabroad.com is a great resource. They have a pretty good search function if you want to look for a bunch of different programs. So for funding, there's 3 scholarships I want to talk about. They are only open to US citizens, and they're kind of unique in what they target. So Gilman's pretty open. You do need to be a Pell Grant recipient or eligible in order to qualify for the Gilman, but you could do any summer program. And you apply, it could be any length. They really are trying to get students away and funded. So you can really just choose your program. For the Boren is actually a fellowship that has a service requirement attached to it. So when you graduate, you have to work for, I think it's a minimum of 6 months in national security. And national security is broadly defined. It's defense, diplomacy, and development. And it's great for students who are really interested in those fields because your resume is going to get a first look at certain government agencies because you have this service requirement. Now, the board will also fully fund. They do semester and summer. And for the summer, you have to be a STEM major. You don't have to do a STEM program, but you have to be a STEM major. And then there's the critical language scholarships. Those are funded by the State Department, and they are targeting certain languages that the State Department views critical to national security. But they're fully funded. You go for 8 weeks doing intensive language and culture studies. And then, of course, there's the Amherst alumni funded summer study abroad fellowships. I've listed them here, and they're certainly on our website. They're open to first year, sophomores, and juniors. So you have to be an active student in order to be a recipient and participate. Some of them are targeting certain areas and languages, like you'll see the CHA Fellow is for China, the HA is for Korea, the Arabic Language Fund is for the Arabic Language Institute at the American University of Beirut, which is one of our exchange partners. The OUA, the Roche McKinstry, and the Ford are much more open. And so what I recommend to students is just apply to the program of interest to you. We're going to sort out which funding sources you'd be awarded. It's really important for you to think about, okay, why do I want to do this program? How is it tied to my studies at Amherst? It doesn't have to be related to your major, but you'll want to talk about how it's related to your studies overall. The personal statement in the summer study abroad fellowship application is an important one. You know, the committee really wants to know from you, why is this summer program important to you personally? Why is it important to your academics and your Amherst education as a whole? So the summer study abroad fellowship application is due on March 24th this year for programs for the summer of 22. You do have to attend a program that's a minimum of 6 weeks. And that might mean that you pair 2 shorter programs together. So for example, LSE, they have 3-week summer sessions. So you could do summer session 1, summer session 2. Or CIEE has 4-week sessions. You could do summer session 1, summer session 2, but it has to be a minimum of 6 weeks. On the Summer Study Abroad Fellowship page, we actually have a program list that we want you to choose. It's a pretty extensive list. We want to make sure you're attending a program that has a good academic program. They have an administration that runs the program well. They have good health and safety protocols. If you want to do a program outside of that list, you just need to have a faculty member kind of vouch for the program. And there's a space for that on your application. All the applications online, you can link to it from our page. It is important that when you're filling out your budget sheet that you include all the costs associated. So tuition, room, board, airfare, a visa fee, if there is one. You also need to have documentation about what those expenses are. So for example, say you're going to be traveling to Lebanon and you need to show proof of the airfare. What's the estimated expense for the airfare? Do a Google flight search for what the estimated airfare is from your home of record or from Amherst to Beirut. You can upload that as a PDF to your application. Same is true for other estimated expenses. Maybe your program fee only covers 2 meals a day, but the program has recommendations on what you'll spend. Upload that estimated expenses. We won't consider any expense that doesn't have documentation attached to it. So just be sure to look at the program sites closely because they'll list estimated expenses on those sites. I want to also note a little bit about kind of traveling during COVID. Right now, as part of your application, you have to fill out a standard travel waiver, and it's important for you to read that and just kind of understand the general risks of traveling. If closer to the time of your departure, if you're a recipient of the fellowships, if your country is a State Department advisory level 3 or 4, or a CDC health notice level 3 or 4, you will have to petition the college's travel policy. This has become kind of the standard these days. We are permitting students to travel to level 3 and 4 countries. You just have to petition. But if you're a recipient, I will share more information with you at a later date. You don't need to petition the travel policy as part of your application. So anytime you have questions, please email geo@amherst.edu. And you're welcome to meet with an advisor. You can sign up for an advising appointment with Chelsea or with me in the travel registry. So Thank you for learning about summer study abroad in this session. And if you have questions, let us know.